YouTubers, we've made it to 2K day, 2,000 meter row day. Another opportunity to see how fast I can cover 2,000 meters on the rowing machine. But before we get into the rest of the vlog for today, I would really appreciate if you could do two things. And those two things are, if you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that would be absolutely fantastic. And if you've not hit that like button already, I would really appreciate it if you did. Both of those things combined really actually help out the channel. And hopefully it'll help me go faster on the 2K. But now we're out here outside walking Yam, letting him get some energy out before his 2K. Maybe he'll go sub 4 minutes. Yam, what do you think? Sub 4?
Yeah.
And then we're going to chill out, relax, do a little bit of a pre-warm up on the erg, see how I'm feeling, and then go on to the 2K itself. Or at least that is the plan. So let's chuck the ball for Yam. Yam, fetch it! Nice. And we'll go back inside. Come on, Yam. Yam, we need to go and get some recovery and food, because remember, food is fuel. Come on. Yeah, Yam. Yam, yeah, Yam. Come on. Yeah, Yam. Yam. Yeah! Oh. And we've made it inside onto bay in the Yam KV2 to do our pre-warm up erg, after dragging Yam across the fields back into the house. Not actually, he did get up. But we've got the fan on to keep me cool, and Yam KV2 is pretty warm, so we will be moving to the kitchen for the actual 2K, but just kept the fan on for a little bit longer to try and blow some air around, and it's not too bad right now. And it's not roasting outside, it's about 20-ish degrees, which is about 900 Fahrenheit, but still the heat is a big factor in today's 2K, so trying to do everything I can to make sure that it's not. And making sure with that, hydration is a big part. So I've actually added, so basically this is more of a carb drink rather than sort of the hydration drink. So I don't actually have like a carb drink specifically, but I've made homemade version. So it's some squash, some sugar, and a little bit of salt as well. So that should help with both hydration and a little bit of extra energy, but it is sugar, so it's going to be pretty quick, so not trying to add too much sugar, only like a teaspoon or so. So it's not just sugar all the way. But this erg itself is just to, like I said, wake up the body a little bit, and it's just going to be a steady one, maybe with a burst or so, not too much. I don't want to be putting too much energy out there. So let's get to it. Heart rate monitor, and just keeping that on for now means that I'm again not putting too much energy out there and keeping it, if I'm keeping this steady, trying to keep my ergs, or this erg specifically, steady, not going too high or too low, because since I've been tapering it's probably going to feel pretty easy, so I don't want to make it feel easy and then turns out my heart rate was really high. But be right back with the heart rate monitor. Okay, we've made it back. Got my heart rate monitor on. Let it register. Okay, 80 beats a minute. Yeah. And we've finished the 10-minute paddle, 2,638 meters. Hopefully be doing less than that in the next time I'm on the erg, or at least for the test itself. The warm-up probably will be longer than that. But heart rate was, oh, it's not reset. Heart rate was averaging just above 120, 122. So that's quite good, but it's only for 10 minutes, and the split was pretty fast compared to what I usually do. So the fan was keeping me cool, and the room itself isn't too cool, but again, it's only 10 minutes, so take a minute to, or take more than 10 minutes to climb up there. But now I've warmed up, woken up a little bit more, got the sweat going, getting the body like, oh, something is happening today, rather than sometimes if you go straight into a hard piece, it's like, oh, it takes you a little bit to get there. now I'm going to just relax, chill out, have some food, because remember, food is fuel. And generally, food-wise, I'll have food like 2 to 3 hours before. So I'm not going to have a big meal because I can tend to throw up after a hard piece. So I don't want to throw up at the end, like during the piece, but I also need fuel. So I'm going to fuel up. But at the same time, a 2K isn't so much about the fuel you eat on the day, the fuel you had yesterday, the glycogen and stores in your body is what you're going to be using in the 2K itself. You won't be using the food that you eat for the meal before. It's more just that feeling of not being hungry, but not being really full, if that makes sense. But obviously that can depend on you. Some people I know struggle to eat at all during test day. Some people are fine and eat so much food. I remember the 2K video I did, I think it was vlog 32, one of the first vlogs of British Rowan 2K. We went round the room, and I think it was one of the guys, he had, like, I remember looking at the plates and thinking, if I ate that, that was coming back up. But now, like I said, fueling up time, because remember, food is fuel, and then pretty much from there, sort out the live stream, make sure I don't really have to do anything to it, just gonna pop it down and play, and then we get to do warm up, because then we have to cool down now, then warm up again, then do the 2K. Oh yeah! And we've got some delicious tuna and rice pre-2K. So usually this is a full container of food for a meal, but like I said, don't want to have too much. So this is about 300 grams of rice and a tin of tuna. So nice and light compared to what I usually have. So basically trying to keep the hunger at bay, but also just eating food. Science. But now, finish this, and then there's warm-up time. And we have finished the delicious tuna and rice, and it's really interesting doing a 2K in isolation, because usually when you're doing a 2K in, say, a rowing club, or, well, generally anytime you're doing a 2K, you don't really generally, or at least in my experience, do one by yourself. So you're kind of left to your own devices rather than feeding off the atmosphere around you. So for example, say you're having breakfast or you're eating food with the people you're doing a 2K with later on in the day, you can sort of, okay, that person's nervous, that person's not, like you can talk to each other, blah, blah, blah. But when you're doing it by yourself, it's kind of like, do I talk to myself? Do I talk to myself? Do I talk to myself? Or do I just kind of chill out? So I've been just watching some YouTube videos, just going through what YouTube recommends, diving down the YouTube rabbit hole before we start the warm-up. So we'll be starting around, I don't know, about half an hour. So going to get, I'm pretty much changed actually. Going to just get ready, put the erg in the kitchen, because this is the cooler place. Probably bring the fan in a bit earlier so it can start circulating the air. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so basically the fan's in place, just pointing it up to move air around. I'm going to get that door's open since the sun's on that side of the house. That's like the hot side, and this is the cool side. Hence why I do it and do most of the hard ergs in the kitchen. Hopefully with the fan, cool it down a couple of degrees, and then have the door and window on this side, hopefully bringing some air in. Just little things to cool it down in the YamK V3, but also it's a case of, like the 2K, the 5K, the heat affected it quite a bit, affected that air quite a bit, as well as the live stream and all that. So experiment with live stream here, just getting it set up behind you so I don't have to touch anything. Basically just like the 2K before, it was on for about an hour and 20 minutes or so. So it'll basically be when I start the warm up till I finish the erg, rather than sort of trying to do some fancy things. as well as the heat. Like I said, the heat can be quite a big thing about an erg, because your body's trying to cool it down. But with a 2K, yes, your body's trying to cool your body down if it's too hot, but a 2K is quite short, or relatively short, whereas say the 5K is more than double the distance, so your body, yes, is trying to spend energy and raise the heart rate and all that to keep it cool, but at the same time with a 2K, it's not, or at least not as long, so you don't feel the heat as much, if that makes sense. So I definitely do feel the difference, but it's less of a factor with the 2K. But that doesn't mean it doesn't affect it, if that makes sense. It's not like, oh, it's a 2K, I can do it in a 40-degree oven, cold oven, but it's more of a case of still trying to cool it down. Anyway, I'm going to fill up my carb drink because I've drank some. So basically, like I said already, bit of squash, bit of sugar, and bit of salt as well to stay hydrated. I am feeling quite hydrated, but the pee isn't quite clear yet, so keeping that if you wanted to know. And that's what I think as well, staying hydrated for tests, making sure you are hydrated, not super duper ultra hydrated, but definitely making sure you're peeing clear. Okay, so fan's doing its thing, keeping the room actually a reasonable temperature, and now it's time to bring Bay into the kitchen. She's been doing her own warm-ups, ready for the 2K, so let's bring her in. Okay, so the erg is here, put it together, and then before any test, I like to just wipe down the slide, get it nice and smooth, and unfortunately there's no lubricant for the chain, so we can't lube that chain on this specific occasion, but that's okay. So I'm going to weigh down the erg as well so it doesn't go walkies. But basically, hooked up the camera to the live stream and some cables behind you. It's much easier to have the camera set up in this configuration rather than doing multiple cameras. That way I'll need to pretty much start stream and then go. So this will be it for the vlog part until after the 2K. You'll see a part of the 2K, don't worry about that, but I'll not really be talking to the camera much until after the 2K. So wish me luck, Yam Squad. Let's see how we get on. Oh yeah! 3, 2, 1, go! And that's us finished the 2K. Here's the screen. Come on. And if you tuned into the live stream, you can kind of see how it went. Started off, I wanted to do a similar first 500 to the last one, which I did. Went through the 500, 26.8 to 26.9, which is pretty much the same as last time. Then it hurt quite a bit more in the middle K than I wanted it to. Well, not that I wanted it to, then I expected it to, which meant that backed off a little bit, so I split from 28 in the last one to 29, and then versus the last
third 500 on the third one was another split, and then but the last 500 was a split faster, so I actually got a sprint in at the end, but did go slower through the middle. And then in the last, I think the last 200 or so, it was sitting at 49s, so I wanted to see if I could sprint hard enough to push it into 48s. And I reckon if I held that sprint, so I got it down to 23s, and if I could have held that sprint for another, I think I blew at about 30 meters left, which meant that I lost about a second, but overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, it's not a PB, which the coach Charlie was pretty confident in getting a PB, but you always kind of go into 2K feeling nervous, so not 100% sure. Charlie's very good at being very confident. But like I said in the live stream, or if you've not already seen it, this 2K, so it's pretty much exactly 2 months since the last one, and it's less than a second off of the other one, and which to me points to consistency. Before, like if I did a PB in the start of a month and then the end of the next month, over the last 3-4 years, it's been a case of like sticking my hand in a bag and guessing what I'm going to get, and usually ended up on the slow side. Like I did 550 one year in December, and then February March time I did 610. This year I did 55 in, or the season did 55 in September, and then October or so before trials I did 608, and a couple of times it was to do with illness, and that seems to be on back there somewhere, which is good, positive. Oh, as I feel quite nauseous. Oh. Oh. Okay, now I've got rid of most of that nauseous feeling. Speaking of illness, it feels like that illness, so the tonsillitis kind of stuff and the overworked, burned out type stuff is behind me, obviously. Still keeping an eye out on it and trying to be careful not overdoing things, but it feels like I can step on and keep pushing even if this score isn't faster than the last one. But to me, it spells more consistency, so that's very, very positive. Wow. You know, sometimes when you throw up and it just feels better. Generally after a 2K, that's what it feels like. But after this 2K, like I stopped, that's the worst, the heaviest my legs have felt post 2K in ever, I think. So that's an interesting one. Like I was struggling to really move the legs at all, rather than it being more of a like hard lungs feeling, if it were. So that can point to a couple of things. What they are, brain kind of needs to try and think of them. But like, I have been doing some weights, so it wouldn't necessarily mean it's a like strength thing. I have changed the weights a little bit, so maybe it's to do with muscular endurance. The ergs have been on the longer and shorter side rather than the middle side, if that makes sense. So longer for the steady, shorter for the hard. So it could be a case of, maybe it is pointing to that slide off my leg. Maybe it is pointing to sort of that muscular endurance side of thing, where the power's fine, power's really good. The fitness is there for low end, is getting it up, transferring it up to the higher end stuff. So getting comfortable sitting at 170 and 170 heart rate, 180 heart rate for longer periods of time, but also not just having the heart rate there, but having the legs there as well, dealing with that lactic acid, rather than, say for example, like doing the half-hour free rate kind of thing. You have to be used to being sort of at least 15 minutes high rate, high lactate, high heart rate. Whereas say you do even the 5k, it's really only maybe 7 minutes, 5 minutes. And then with the 2k, the intensity is that much higher. So even though you might only be pushing the limits for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, it's still a higher intensity. So it may be the equivalent to lower intensity for a longer time, if that makes sense. So now, post 2k, fuel it up, because remember, food is fuel, and then just having to chill out, because the 2k, no matter how many you do, no matter how fast you go, no matter who you are, the 2k takes a lot out of you. Not just the fact that it's an intense piece, it's a difficult piece, but just the mental preparation for it. You have to gear yourself up for it. You have to be ready to yam. But also just the fact of, like, even if you're like, okay, a week before I'm doing a 2k next week, it plays on your mind, okay, I don't want to do that because I've got 2k coming up, or I have to eat a certain way, or you're constantly thinking about it, which can be a mental drain. So a little bit of a relief having 2k over and done with, but at the same time, not a PB. Obviously you can't just PB every time, but positively, it's another 2k where it's sub 50, excellent, and another 2k where all of the splits were under 130. So I didn't just wait to the last 900, although I did. I'm dry, thrown up, but I didn't just wait to the last bit to sprint, although I did sprint on this one. So always a learning experience. It's time to go recover and enjoy the rest of the weekend. So as always, Yam Squad, I need some water. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next episode.